Hello and welcome to the Gosh Daniel podcast. This is episode 29, I think. Daniel is not here, so I went through, asked a couple of different people to be on the episode, and I ended up sitting down and talking to the $10 patron, he who wishes not to be named, something like that. I don't remember his name, actually. That's why. But yeah, so we talked about Blade Runner a little bit, and I don't know, it was an interesting interview-ish type thing. It was a weird episode, so I'm gonna split up bits of it and use pieces of it, I guess. Derails quite a few times, so hopefully you won't notice that too much in the editing, but yeah, I'll sort of narrate some of this every once in a while. So yeah, well, here it is. So we're gonna talk Blade Runner. Daniel's not here today because he's on vacation.
Where is Daniel?
He's in Myrtle Beach or something like that.
No, I just want to make sure you aren't in Puerto Rico or anything.
No, he's not. He's not out of the country. At least he's just a few. He's still within the country. He's within.
I mean, there's significance to Puerto Rico. I made that joke because of current events.
Right.
Current events.
Right. It's hurricanes and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Just checking. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. I should have made that connection a bit earlier, but yeah. Okay. So I'm here with.
How much of this are you gonna edit?
Oh, quite a bit with how you are acting.
You're gonna cut a lot out, aren't you?
I'm definitely gonna cut a lot out. Okay. Now on to the next usable clip. There really wasn't a lot in this episode. I'm trying to stretch it out by talking for a very, very long time in between bits. But there's some really good stuff in this episode, so maybe stick around if you want. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay, well, here's the next bit where I try to direct it back to the topic of conversation. So, all right, so yeah, we're going to talk Blade Runner, and then I guess there were like 3 shorts that were.
No, there were. I mean, you were sure about it when you told me to watch
I was. Yeah, I'm not really sure. They weren't that short, though, some of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Some of them were a few minutes, and some of them were like 20.
It's all relative.
Yeah, it is, in a way. Relative to the movie, I guess, they're short.
Yeah, okay.
And they take place in different periods. One of them was, I don't know, one of them was like an anime, and it was called Blade Runner Blackout 2022, which was 3 years after the original Blade Runner, which was in like 2019.
It reminds me of the stuff they did with like the Matrix and the Animatrix, where they had all those little shorts that went with it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Yeah, similar to that. Were those directed by different people and stuff like that too?
Yeah, I think they were, if I remember correctly. But I am aware of the fact that we're being recorded, so I'm sure I'll say stuff that, you don't have a big listenership anyway, right? So nobody's going to go back and fact check.
Well, I mean, people will
they
probably
absolutely were.
They will definitely fact check, but they won't tell me about it.
No, well, okay, well that's good.
Yeah. I'm thinking of starting a different podcast that would immediately, like, that's so niche that it would immediately have a bigger listenership than this, and it would have lots of people who love to do fact checking. I think that would be great.
Maybe we call fact check this.
Yeah, and we just say a bunch of wrong things. Actually, that's what it is every time I talk to Dan. Now that I think about it.
Good mythical fact check.
Good mythical fact check.
Fact,
yeah. Just leave a comment down below on how horrible we got this wrong. So they had Blackout 22, 3 years after. So then the next one was 2036 Nexus Dawn, I think is what it was called, and that one, basically. Well, I guess I'll just introduce them and then I'll talk about them. Then there was 2048, Nowhere to Run. And that one was, like, I guess a year before the upcoming one, 2049. Like, this is not even a podcast anymore.
That's sorry. You mean it's not your podcast anymore?
No, it's not a podcast.
Oh, it's 3 of them?
It's none of them. Oh. It's nothing. This is a nothing. This is a big, giant nothing you're doing here.
Are we going to talk about anything?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk about something.
Okay.
So, we rewatched the director's cut of Blade Runner, and I really like it. It's good. I think that
That's insightful.
yeah. Well, I talked about it more like previously, but I guess I want to
Okay.
talk more about the sort of lore to catch people up who haven't watched Blade Runner if they want to go see 2049, because I feel like a lot of the people that listen would not have watched Blade Runner.
That's kind of, yeah. Well, they should.
They really should, but
Yeah.
but if you don't get a chance to, you don't have time. The whole point is that there are these things, and they're called replicants, and the current model of replicants are called.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Let me.
jeez.
I'll turn that off.
Okay.
Okay, my phone's on silent now.
Good.
Yeah, that's a rookie mistake there.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So yeah, the current generation of replicants, which are just like sort of human replica droids, are called Nexus 6s, and they have the ability to sort of develop emotional responses to things. They're sort of rebellious and evil, and they only live for 4 years.
I
Is
don't
that
know
right?
if they were really rebellious and evil or had developed emotional responses so much as. Is that really?
I'm
what
pretty
it
sure
said?
he said even in the movie that they might even be able to develop emotional responses, and you see them developing responses.
Well, I mean,
to
they're
things throughout
definitely
the
they
movie.
have responses. I just don't know if that was something that like was an unintended, consequence of having created them or anything. I have a feeling that was maybe the way it started. That's one of those things where the movie is like you're not sure. There's so much that you could be asking. There's so much potential background that you just don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So
And yeah, I think that was the only problem with the movie. I did like that some of it wasn't explained and that they didn't whatever. But the stuff that they did explain, I don't think they explained very well in terms of exposition. Like, there was that scene when the whatever police dude was explaining to
beginning.
Harrison Ford at the beginning how like replicants exist and all this stuff, and explaining what they are and that they only live for 4 years. When he's a
they've
Blade
already
Runner,
established the premise that he's an excellent Blade Runner, so he'd know all that. It was obvious just for the audience. Yeah, that was bad.
Blade Runners are supposed to hunt down and kill replicants and everything. So Blade Runners are supposed to like kill replicants and everything. And Harrison Ford's character is really good at it. But is he retired?
No, they retire replicants. That's
Right.
what
Yeah,
call it.
they call it retiring. And I don't know. It's all this crap happens, but eventually he kills off. Are they the last remaining?
No,
Nexus
it's just that
Sixes?
I don't think they were the last remaining Nexus 6s. I mean, don't quote me on it. I think it was just more of an issue of that they came to Earth and they're not allowed to be on Earth.
Right. Okay.
They used them as basically slave labor off in the colonies.
Mm-hmm.
But they stole a ship, killed people, and came back to Earth. So
Right.
the Blade Runners hunt them down on Earth.
And it's punishable by death to have a replicant in general, I think,
I
or
don't
maybe
know
it's
about
just on
that.
Earth.
They're just
It
not
said that
allowed
in the
to
title crawl.
to have one.
I'm pretty sure it said it's punishable by death to be, maybe it's just to make them. I don't know. There's a lot that isn't explained very well, but I felt like what they did explain should have been in the title crawl that they already had. It was well written still, but like they should have added a little bit more to it, maybe.
Yeah, they could have.
Yeah.
But it was a different day and age in movies too. Back then, they didn't explain everything like we're all American idiots the way they do now. I mean,
Yeah.
they spoon feed you in movies these days. So
Yeah, they really do. Which is why I enjoy the sort of things that don't tell you things, which you don't find much in movies, but you find that in books more often now.
yeah,
That's why I like Brandon Sanderson, is because he explains all of his magic systems and he explains the whole world to the point where you're enjoying the story, but you don't understand how it's all connected in inter-universe unless you are really paying attention, and you can, it's not fully explained, so you develop theories and that sort of thing. Okay, so I guess Blade Runner ends with him killing the replicants, and then he runs off with one of them, right?
kind of. I mean,
That
doesn't
only
kill
lives
them all.
for 4 years.
I mean, one of the big points of the end. Are we supposed to be telling them the end of?
Yeah, sure, let's spoil
Because
it.
people should have seen it already.
People should have seen it already, but
If you haven't seen it already, it's your own fault. So
it sort of is.
yeah, I mean, he retires. Well, he actually no. I mean, because he retires.
3 of them.
No.
Oh, he retires too. The other replicant that is his ally retires one of them, and then the last one just sort of disappears.
No, he dies because he expired. They only had an incept date and
Right.
what did they an outcept date? I don't know what it's called, but an
Yeah.
expiration date.
And that's how he just died.
He died. Yeah, and that was a significant scene, where he just saves his life after hunting Harrison Ford, right?
Yeah.
He saves his life at the last second, and then he sits there, tells him all the things that he saw, and says that, all those memories are going to die with him, basically. And then he said, time to die, puts his head down, and the dove that he's holding flies up into the sun. And that's the only bit of sun that you see in the whole movie. So, I don't know, to me, it was kind of like his spirit being released to heaven.
But he's a robot.
Right. So
They
that's
even
kind
said-
of the question is like, have they, transcended their, are they sentient? Right.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's what to me, that's what they're trying to imply with it. But,
that
symbolism
makes
and
sense.
stuff, I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, that question is sort of brought up again in 2022.
Well,
when-
and it is kind of a theme of Ridley Scott's too. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, if you look at some of the alien stuff, when, the alien movies, especially the later ones, deal a lot with the robots, whatever they call them. I can't remember in Alien, but is it Michael? You haven't seen them.
No, I've
I
only
can't
seen
remember.
the first one, and that was not a pleasant experience for me.
Yes, it was pleasant.
I'm not a big fan of those movies for some reason.
Yeah. Well, but you're not one of those people that decides ahead of time whether you're going to like something or not either. So.
No, I just watched it and I didn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I tried to keep an open mind when I saw it because I figured there's a good chance. Wait, so 2022 takes place. There's a new model of Nexus, and they're the Nexus 8, and they have normal lifespans. But they set off an the replicants set off an EMP that takes out all of the power in all of Earth.
The point is they're trying to take out the records of the replicant registry.
Yeah.
So that nobody knows who the replicants are, because the humans were tracking down replicants and brutally slaughtering them. So
Yeah, because they just don't like replicants because they're not human.
So it's like that. Is it Drugstore Cowboy? I think was the movie where they try and take out all the bank records. It might have been a different name, but they try and take out all the bank records, so there's no record of any dead or anything anymore. It was basically that kind of a deal.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and then one of the replicants actually asks, like, so do we get to go to heaven? And the other one just says, no, there's no hell or heaven for us. And so that question seems like it's answered, but maybe that's just what he thought. They set off the EMP, all of the power goes out in all of Earth, and then that's the end of it. The next one is 2036.
But wasn't there the same issue in that one where the dove is released?
It's true, yeah, she died and there's another dove.
So it does kind of make you wonder whether that, they just don't know there's a heaven.
Yeah.
Replicants have spirits.
Right. And then 2036 starts there. They have the power back. It's completely illegal to make any kind of or even develop replicant technology after 2022 because of the events of the blackout. So they're not allowed to make replicants at all. The Tyrell Corporation, which used to make them, is bankrupt and completely gone. This new guy who's called something Wallace, I don't remember, founds this Wallace Corporation. He talks to I don't know, are they world leaders basically? He has this meeting with them.
Must be, yeah, like head politicians or something.
Yeah, and he tries to sort of convince them to let him sell replicants and stuff like that. And then he shows them this replicant that he had. And the thing about this replicant is they live a normal lifespan, all this stuff. Oh, actually, no, they don't. They can live as long as the person who buys it wants it to be.
It basically goes into like iRobot kind of issues, back to the Isaac Asimov kind of a thing with the laws of robotics and iRobot. One of them was that a robot can't harm a human, right? So it seemed like that's where they were kind of going with that one, because he gave him a choice to either hurt him, the creator, or hurt himself, the replicant, and the replicant hurts himself. And I think that was supposed to prove to them, oh, there's safeguards now. They can't hurt people anymore. So borrowing from Isaac Asimov with that.
And they never rebel and all this stuff. So that's how he developed them. And he said, yeah, so it's your life or mine. And so the replicant kills itself right in front of all of them, and they're all horrified. And they're telling him it's illegal still, basically, right?
Right.
But there's no real clear-cut answer.
Yeah.
My guess is that Wallace just continues to make them anyways because of 2048.
Yeah, you already see him in that, don't you? So.
Yeah, we see this one replicant who's played by, do you know the guy's name? From Guardians of the Galaxy, plays Drax.
Oh, right. No, I don't know his name. The big guy.
Yeah. But he's this nice little, well, not a little guy, but he's this nice guy. He's got these tiny little glasses, and he gives like a little book to a kid, and he seems like a nice sort of scholarly dude. And then that little girl is being like attacked, so he just like beats the crap out of these guys.
Let me just say, Drugstore Cowboy was totally wrong.
Oh.
I don't know what movie it was that I was thinking of, but I looked it up just to do a little fact check because I don't want people to think I'm an idiot. That was wrong movie, so.
Okay, hashtag fact check.
Yep, there you go.
2017.
Whatever that means. Hashtag stuff.
How did you even manage to get on Patreon? I'm amazed by this.
I don't know. I just really, really, really wanted to be on your podcast, so. Yeah,
right. I bet that's why. Yeah. Well, yeah. How are you enjoying those $10 and up Patreon episodes every other week? Do you really like those?
They're good. I'm a little bit behind on them.
Really?
A little.
They're only 2. So how behind are you?
2.
Okay.
2 behind.
Cool. Well, I'm glad somebody's taking advantage of what we. Okay. Well,
I mean,
we're
you
still
can
gonna
choose
make
to get
them,
offended
so.
by it, or you can choose to be thankful for
I'm quite thankful. No, I'm thankful for it. I just feel bad for you. You know, you're not getting your
I'll make
just
sure
rewards
I get it.
here.
I'm gonna binge at some point.
Yeah, that might be fun. I'm not sure. Some of them are probably horrible. Of the 2, one of them is probably bad, if not both. But anyways,
I might change my dollar amount then.
Oh, well, that's a bit sad.
I mean, if they're horrible.
Well, I'm not sure if they're horrible. I don't usually listen back to the episodes after I edit them and put them out. So.
Yeah, I guess a lot of artists are like that.
Yeah, it's not super fun to listen back to.
Yeah. I
mean, it's painful enough to edit, but
yeah,
this one's going to be really painful to edit, actually.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's not all entirely your fault. It's just that, I have less ability to edit because we're not doing 2 separate tracks for this.
Oh,
anyways,
gotcha.
That's probably really boring. So 2048, nowhere to run. He ends up beating the crap out of these guys. And turns out he's a replicant. They're all terrified of him, and he gets turned into the police, I guess. There's a replicant here, basically, and that's how it ends. And that's a year before 2049, and I know that he's in 2049. So obviously,
Drax is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So obviously he escapes somehow.
Yeah.
Manages to resist being hunted.
Yeah, it's a shame because he manages to stay away all that time until he decides to do something nice for people, and then that's when he gets in trouble. And the people that he was being nice to, even though they seem to have known him for a long time, turn their backs on him too. So
yeah, it's really depressing in a way.
I guess they're, well, sort of typical. They make people out to be bad. So
yeah,
robots or animals are good.
That's true a lot of the time.
A lot of themes and a lot of Hollywood, yeah.
I guess so, yeah. But yeah, I'm interested to see where 2049 goes because they set up a lot of really, really interesting stuff. That's more than I would expect them to have done. Like there was a worldwide blackout, complete ban on replicants. A few different models get passed through, a bunch of different advancements, and there's another sort of ban. Just a lot of stuff happens in between the 2 movies that makes it feel more realistic. As if like their 2022 like blackout is like our 9/11 or something like that, and then it goes on from there. But life is a lot different after that,
Yeah, I mean, it gives me hope that it's going to be a little bit more than just a a fluffy couple hours of entertainment, that there's actually some background to it. I mean, I think that
Right.
was one of the things that was good about Matrix when you watched them, is that there were threads of, something deeper that went through it. So you could have conversations about more of the, the Matrix, the theology behind it and what the meanings were and things. It was interesting in that sense. So,
Yeah, yeah, and Blade Runner is sort of doing a similar thing.
yeah.
And also reviews have sort of come out for 2049 already. And it sounds like, I think right now it has a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really, really good. But that's not too, I think that was the same score that his last movie was.
Who?
What is his name? The director.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't understand what he said.
Denis Villeneuve?
Denise.
Villeneuve? Denise Villeneuve?
I don't know. Yeah, it's French.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, his last movie was Arrival, which was nominated for literally everything at the Oscars, had a 98. Is actually really in-depth, sort of philosophical. Talks about like cyclical time and all this interesting stuff. It's really, really interesting, really good movie. Definitely deserving of the score it got. Should have won Best Picture, actually, from what I saw. Because watching La La Land and I guess I didn't see Moonlight, which actually did win. But I watched a lot of the other, Best Picture nominees, and I think Arrival was my favorite. But yeah, so I think, his movies are a lot deeper than a lot of other sci-fi movies, a lot of other blockbusters. And I think it'll do really well. It sounds like people are really intrigued about a Blade Runner sequel.
Why did the
short
Dark
films are getting a
Tower-
lot of traction too. What?
Why did the Dark Tower do so badly?
It's because it wasn't all that great.
I mean, I thought it was an enjoyable movie personally, but I don't know any of the history behind it.
Right. Yeah. It's like an 8-book series or something, 7 books.
Yeah,
that
I
are
started
giant.
trying to read one, and it was just like, I've never gotten through Stephen King, so that's,
Right.
I admit that, but
Yeah, I think Hunt the Bunt Gunter's trying.
good luck, Hunt the Bunt Gunter.
Yeah, he's trying to read Dark Tower, or listen to it on Audible or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, I just heard that it was okay, but it takes place after the events of the books in some ways, and then doesn't follow them in other ways, and just is all over the map. I mean, it seemed like the movie seemed interesting to me, but it got like, I don't know, a 40 something on Rotten Tomatoes, 50 something.
Yeah, I just don't get that. I mean, if you're judging a movie, it's hard. Because the Lord of the Rings movies, I think if you've read the books, and if you had read the books first, I didn't like the way they changed the books so much, especially when, Alan Partridge, or whatever the name of the guy is, said it, they always ask the question, what would Tolkien do? And my answer to that was always, Tolkien would probably have done what Tolkien did. So, yeah, if you like a book, it's always hard because the movie is so different. But at the same time, I thought the Lord of the Rings movies were a blast. They were great movies.
Yeah, Return
So
of
if
the
you
King
separate
had
them-
the most changes from the book. And that one is the one that actually won Best Picture that year.
So again, you come back from that, you apply that to Dark Tower, and it's like, well, moviegoers I would have thought, found Dark Tower still enjoyable. Maybe not the people that read the book, but I don't know why it got panned so badly that nobody went to see it. When we saw it, we liked it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, you've liked a lot of panned movies this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's because I go in and see how I feel and think about them.
Yeah.
Myself.
Yeah, I do that too, but I'm probably a bit more picky. But
Maybe, yeah. I guess that's true. I've mellowed.
Yeah, I think I'm just sort of a picky person when I see a movie. I just immediately think, here are all the bad things that happened in the movie that I did not enjoy, that I don't think worked, and then I try to evaluate, are those bad things bad enough to make the movie just over the edge of good, or just plain bad.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I bet the movie was fine. It was okay. I mean, I wanted to see it, but I didn't get a chance to. So.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll watch it at some point. All right. Well, do you have any like predictions or things that you're not looking forward to in 2049?
I haven't really paid attention to it at all. I'm not sure where it started, the whole me not liking Ryan Gosling thing. I guess I'd have to look at his movieography to see where it started. But yeah, so I think that threw me for a loop with the whole thing. It kind of sucked for me to have him in there. But
Yeah.
then again, it's like Keanu. Never liked Keanu, but he's managed to get movies that are decent. So
Yeah, he does some really good movies and some really awful movies. So
yeah, I mean, he's in some really good movies and some really awful movies. I don't think he has anything to do with whether they're good or awful, because I mean,
yeah.
he is awful in all of them. But
Yeah, I mean, it sort of depends on the tone that they're going for, from what I understand. Like, if they want the movie to be a little cheesy, and that's the point, then cast Keanu Reeves.
and let him talk. Yeah,
Yeah, usually just the least dialogue for Keanu, the better.
yeah, yeah. Four-letter words that are like whoa. That's a good one for him. Whoa. He does that one well.
Yeah, I bet he does. I've only seen The Matrix. I haven't seen any of the John Wick movies.
Yeah, those were good because he didn't really talk in them at all. So, yeah, and he was good in Bill and Ted's because that's pretty much, I think, who he is, probably, or what he's capable of.
What he's capable.
He's capable of being a, out of your mind, drugged out stoner. So,
Yeah.
if he acts like that, then, well, maybe he's not acting. I don't know. So. This does have to be boring for you. It's boring for me. I've heard myself say these things before.
It's not that bad.
All
right. Well, Ryan Gosling was in some good stuff. I mean, I don't think he's great, and he's got that weird, very non-symmetrical face.
Like a little Gosling.
Like
a little fluffy Gosling.
I mean, I've heard of the Ugly Duckling, but Ugly Gosling is sort of more of a problem in today's film. So, yeah, his face is really weird to me. I don't like it. It's ugly.
Well, okay. What's the deal with the guy that is it Tyson? No. Who's the guy that's creating the replicants?
Wallace. Something Wallace. I don't know his
So,
first name.
So William Wallace, is he a bad guy in this? Or, I mean, it looked like he was a bad guy.
Sort of,
you can't really tell.
Yeah, and he's played by Jared Leto. And this seems like his first good role ever.
Have I seen him in anything?
I'm not sure if you have.
I mean, I know the name, but
He's been in. Well, he was originally a rock star, and then transitioned to doing films, and also still being a rock star.
What? Just under his own name, or is there a band?
No, it's like, what is it, 30 Seconds to Mars or something.
Oh,
like that.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that. I mean, I've heard of it.
Yeah. I'm not too much of a fan of it, but I mean, it's whatever. But he was the Joker in the Suicide Squad movie.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that either.
He was supposed to be, which is, from what I've heard, one of the worst movies. One of the worst. Well, it's the worst DC movie.
Okay.
Which is saying something, because there are a lot of really bad ones.
Yeah, that's true.
The Joker's in it for only a little bit, but he was really trying to get in character to be creepy. And he's this weird, like, shirtless, tattooed Joker that nobody liked. He was just really weird. And he was trying to get into character by doing, like, the weirdest things to his co-stars and, like, just really creepy and pervy and sending them weird crap. And I don't know.
That's great.
Yeah, good stuff. So people just hated him on that set and whatever. And he's trying to be creepy in a method actor way that he's just not good at.
Yeah.
Didn't really work. But I feel like being creepy in the I'm half robot way that he is in, at least in the trailers and in 2036.
Is he half robot?
That seems to work. The way that he was talking, the way that they edited his voice sounded like almost like Siri, in that it was like patched together pieces of dialogue.
Yeah, he did have
which was intentional.
Abrupt way of speaking, or choppy or something.
And I know he was
but he's
blind,
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
but he seemed like, I don't know. He almost reminded me. It's like at least some parts of him must be sort of cyborg-ish.
It is interesting that somebody would be blind when you can create entire human beings, you know?
Yeah.
Like the first Blade Runner, they have a guy that specializes in eyes.
Yeah,
right?
specifically.
So,
And he only makes eyes,
yeah.
and they're just playing around with little eyes. It was a really weird scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he could get eyes if he wanted to. I think it's just part of being creepy. And so he's probably decided I'm a creepy guy, so I'm just gonna be blind.
Yeah.
But I think this
I don't
actually
know.
is
To
gonna be
me,
a good role for him.
Somebody that's creepier is somebody that can, like, you know, come and get me. But, you know, if I can tiptoe around the corner and
But
they
eerie,
can't find me
maybe
anymore.
eerie. It's eerie. It might not be creepy.
Yeah, all right.
I think that actually does look. I think that is gonna be fun. I think he'll be good in it. And then what's his name? We really just need to look up these people's names. Where's my phone? I don't have my phone.
Here, you can use my phone. I'm just listening to music right now.
Please don't. But yeah, let me look up the cast here. I know Harrison Ford's back, apparently, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because from the previews that showed that Harrison Ford was in them.
Yeah. So
That was my
he
first
must,
clue.
Yeah, he must be back. Here.
How many times has he crashed a plane?
It's three times, I think. I don't know. I mean, there was that on. I don't know if you heard about this, but on the Force Awakens set, one of the doors, like, you know, they make the Millennium Falcon with hydraulic doors that actually close and open and everything.
Yeah.
It closed on his leg and broke it
Ouch.
in half. Like, snapped it all the way and completely dislocated it too, and they couldn't get to open for a while. Which is why The Force Awakens took a bit longer to film than they were expecting, because they needed to wait for his leg to recover from being snapped in half. He still talks about it, like, anytime there's an interview. He's just like, yeah, and then there was that time the Millennium Falcon literally destroyed my leg.
Yeah,
He
I'd be
hates
a
Star
little
Wars.
bit angry about that.
Yeah, he was very mad, and
That
he's
seems
still very
pretty-
mad.
Like, unacceptable. Yeah, that would be something that was looked into pretty dang heavily in my industry.
Yeah.
That we would have a billion safety initiatives and all kinds of things about that to make sure that never happened.
Yeah, right. Like, people would be really mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, I guess probably some people got fired. Maybe. But
I would hope so.
they probably covered his expenses. Not that he really needed them to. But
No, well, yeah, no, probably not. But nevertheless, I'd still want them to.
I mean, I could see why he'd continue doing the project, because that seems like something where old crotchety Harrison Ford would just quit right then.
Yeah.
But he wanted them to kill off Han Solo in Return of the Jedi, and was annoyed that they didn't. That's the only reason he really agreed to do The Force Awakens.
Okay.
From what I can tell, is because he just wanted Han Solo to die. So I bet he's like, well, I did break my leg and everything, but at least Han Solo will finally die and people will leave me alone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All right, so Harrison Ford, Ryan Gosling, Robin Wright. The guy from Guardians is Dave Bautista, something like that.
Was he in other stuff?
I think he was a WWE star.
Oh.
He's actually, he's a really good actor, which is interesting. He was in Spectre.
Well, WWE is acting.
It is acting, yeah.
Weightlifting and acting. It's acting stupid, but
Well, yeah, but it's still a kind of acting. He's just surprisingly good at other kinds of acting too.
yeah.
Yeah. So he was in Guardians 1 and 2, and he was in. Is that the latest James Bond? Spectre, 2015.
I can't keep them straight.
Yeah. Well, he was in that
Probably.
too. Those are the main things that he was in. Yeah.
There's not really any working timeline in my head whatsoever anymore.
Oh. Well, that must be hard.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
not the best. So we're doing a podcast right now about a movie that hasn't come out yet.
Well, I wanted to make it sort of a predictions sort of thing.
Predictions. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you, like, what are you?
Yeah, and I didn't have anything to say.
You just started
should have
talking
asked
about
me
how
to
you don't like
have
Ryan Gosling.
prediction. Okay, yeah. You really didn't prep me for this at all.
No, I didn't. I like to get a real honest response from people I'm talking to on the podcast.
I don't have any problem with that.
I
It's
try
just that whole,
jump up
the
with a
boring
mic.
side.
What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
Tell me now.
The man on the street interviews.
Yeah.
We should probably be near a street.
Yeah, I mean, look at his face. It's like it's weird. It's not symmetrical. Like his
Yeah.
one of his eyes is like falling off his face.
Yeah, he is. He's
I don't
weird.
know. He's weird. And then Ryan Reynolds is one of the first things that comes up when you search Ryan Gosling. That's funny. Okay. Well. Yeah. So, do you think any? What do you think the plot is? Because I can't really tell, which I think is a good thing. Is Ryan Gosling
It
a
reminds
replicant,
me
or
a
is
little
he?
bit of the remake of Total Recall, which was so much not like the other Total Recall, where they go to like an apparently abandoned kind of part of the city, and then they end up following him there.
Hmm.
Did you see Total Recall, the Colin Farrell version?
No.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I didn't pay that close attention to it. I was usually when the previews are, I'm still eating a pizza, but since they got rid of their decent pizzas at the AMC theaters, I probably won't be even paying them. I'll probably pay more attention in the future. So
That's a good thing.
But they have beer now, so yeah, maybe not. Yeah, it looked like, I don't know. I have no idea what was going on at the beginning. It looked closer to the end, like he finds, this Harrison Ford character who's been hiding away all this time, which makes sense based on, I don't remember which cut it was from the first Blade Runner, where they drive off into the forest weirdly. I think that might have been the theatrical one, but don't quote me on that. So I guess he's been hiding out. Ryan Gosling tracks him down. I bet it's a question of, whether these are actually people. Can they actually have, feelings and emotions and, spirits, or are they really just robots? And I'm assuming that he's a Blade Runner also.
I feel like he's a Blade Runner, but then he'll find out that he is a Blade Runner meant to retire replicants, even though he's a replicant. That's what I think is going to happen.
Gotcha.
I bet he's a replicant.
So I think he just falls in love with a replicant the same way Harrison Ford did, and then comes after him. But then, well, he's obviously done something wrong, because don't they come after him and start shooting?
Isn't that because they have discovered that he's a replicant, maybe?
Oh, well,
or
that could be too.
is that because he refused, or he tried to get out of being a Blade Runner or something like that?
I don't know.
He can't or
I
something.
don't know.
It
Yeah,
seems
again, it
interesting.
feels like
It seems like they ally replicants in it too, a bit more.
they don't maybe. I mean, I'm glad that they don't give away a lot in the preview, but they do have a lot of scenes that you'd kind of wish would unfold in the movie and that you wouldn't be shown ahead of time.
Yeah, I guess so.
I wish they could find a balance with doing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that some of them, like, they'll just show you the entire plot and all the scenes.
Yes.
And that'll ruin a movie. Like Spider-Man Homecoming. Except I actually think that movie was still enjoyable despite the trailer spoiling the entire movie.
The worst ones really are comedies, because they give the jokes, they give you the best jokes in the previews, and then you watch the movie and there's no better jokes than the ones that I already know, and it's funny now.
Yeah, I mean, that's why that's the only reason I thought the reboot of Ghostbusters was not that great, is because I already saw all the really hilarious jokes.
Well, to me, it was just like the original Ghostbusters was so good, and it's like 10 minutes later, again, Hollywood can't come up with anything original, so
yeah,
they have to remake everything, but let's change the sex of the entire sure, have a woman or even 3 women, but I don't know why it has to be all women.
I don't know.
There's
been
seems
a
like
lot
a
of
mega feminist agenda thing.
Sort of. I mean, like, there was backlash from the creators who was saying, well, if you don't like this movie, then you're completely and totally sexist.
Right, yeah.
That sort of thing is what makes it seem like it's got some sort of political agenda. Instead of, you could just make a gender-swapped reboot, and it would be unoriginal, and it'd be boring, and everybody would hate it. But you don't have to be political about it. As far as it goes, I don't really like reboots. And I don't like sequels, and I wish they'd do more original things. Oh, do you have to go soon?
Yeah, pretty soon.
All right. I don't like sequels and reboots and that sort of stuff, but they've been making less reboots lately, and more soft reboot sequels, I guess, like what they did with The Force Awakens and The Cursed Child and Blade Runner and Everything Ever lately.
What's The Cursed Child?
The Cursed Child is the 8th Harry Potter thing that they made a play of.
Oh.
That was awful, actually. That was legitimately terrible. I hated that. So like you can make really good ones. Like I mean, I'd say The Force Awakens is, as far as it goes, good. Cursed Child was absolutely terrible.
Okay.
Like just indescribably the worst. Completely ruins the whole point of. Okay, I'm gonna spoil it for you. Is that all right? I mean,
Yeah, I don't
you
care.
wouldn't want to read it. Voldemort has a love child with what's her name? The
McGonagall.
No, geez, what's the name of the really insane one who's like his most fanatic follower?
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know her name. Bellatrix Lestrange.
Yeah.
He has a child with Bellatrix Lestrange, and she's the main villain. But she's like,
Who wrote it?
it was a story by J.K. Rowling, but it was written by Jack Thorne, and Jack Thorne was actually about to be writing episode 9 until they fired Colin Trevorrow, and now they have a new writing cast. That's J.J. Abrams and people.
All right, you
So
lost
Jack
me.
Thorne, oh right,
I don't know what happened. Colin Trevorrow entered in there, and then the whole
Sorry.
train derailed
Right.
for me.
Okay, so episode 9 was originally going to be directed by Colin Trevorrow, who directed The Book of Henry, Jurassic World, sorry. They fired him because The Book of Henry was weird. And Jack Thorne was going to help Colin Trevorrow write it for Star Wars Episode 9. And I think they fired them both.
Okay.
But yeah, he wrote the thing. And anyway, so it was horrible. Voldemort's daughter was the main villain of the book, and all this weird stuff. Harry Potter's kid was like a Slytherin, and he hated Harry, but he was like nice, but he hated him, and his best friend was a Malfoy. It was, I mean, all that stuff was sort of interesting. But then when you get to the point where they're just using time turners and they're doing the exact same thing that they always do, where you jump back in time to change something. They tried to save Cedric Diggory, but they come back and that meant that Harry died, and then everything went downhill and Voldemort took over and all this horrible stuff. And so they have to go back in time to change it back to the way it was. I hate that stuff. And then I hate, Voldemort, the only thing he doesn't understand is love. But he understands how to have a child. Like, that's love making.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem to fit. But anyways, that's aside from the point. They can make really good soft reboots, and they make really terrible ones. I just hope this one's a good one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to learn from a lot of that is that just because something's been a moneymaker in the past, I mean, Hollywood is just going to keep doing it as long as they can make a dime on it. And
I think in that case, it was just J.K. Rowling who did that.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I mean, one of the things that I really like about a lot of the stuff that the shows that we like the most on the BBC is, like, they tend to stop,
Yeah.
They stop before they suck. They don't go on and on and on. I mean, there are shows that I've just loved that as they go on, they just get crappy.
James
the characters
Harriet,
totally
All Creatures
change.
Great and Small, ruined my life. That was my favorite show until you got to, season 4, and then the cast changes. And, like, they filmed it, like, 5 years later, and you could tell.
Yeah,
And it was awful.
Some stuff they need to just leave alone.
Yeah. I couldn't get over the fact that his wife changed actresses. Like, it's
that's weird.
creepy.
Now,
really
I have
weird.
to say W1A is the 3rd season after several years now is out in Britain right now, and I'm super excited about there being more W1A.
That was a good show.
I mean, 2012 and W1A are 2 of the top shows. The writing, the acting, just unbelievable in those. So I can't wait to have that cross the pond here. But
Wait, is the pond the Atlantic? I always thought it was the English Channel.
yeah, I don't think it matters. I think it's all a pond, personally.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that just means England is, the UK in general is just a tiny little island in the giant pond of the world.
I think that America's so big that, the ocean's just like a little frickin' pond to big old America.
That's interesting.
I mean, if you're a Texan, that's probably the attitude you'd have.
Yeah, I could see Texans thinking that. Sorry, Texans. There actually might be a few Texans who listen to this tab.
Well, I know a few Texans. There might be a good one out there, but
Hey, my mom's a Texan.
might be a good one out there.
Your sister's a Texan, isn't she?
Well, sort of. Yeah, she was born there, but she only lived there for 6 or 7 minutes.
You lived there.
Yeah, but I wasn't a Texan.
Yeah, that's true.
I was just, trying to get out.
You might had no twang.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of a way to end this. We talked about 2049.
Did it even begin?
No, not really. This was a thing, I guess.
This is a blooper reel.
It really.
There were a couple of okay spots in it where I said things, but
Yeah.
other than that, I'm not really sure.
Just make a good sequel, Hollywood.
This mic stand doesn't like to stay up on its own.
Well, that's not my problem.
Well, it's your mic.
Well, okay, then it's my problem, I guess.
All right. Well, I have to go.
All right. Well, that's all that we recorded, minus editing and stuff like that. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I really enjoyed that one. Thank you to our guest for being on. And thanks for supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/GoshDaniel. Also, thank you to Hunt the Bunt Gunter and Noreen for donating a little bit of money every month to, I guess it's not really keeping the podcast running. It might get to that point, but it's like a little bit of an incentive to keep doing it. It makes me feel guilty for missing episodes, and it makes me want to make more of them. So there's that. Yeah, okay. We're also on Twitter at GoshDanielPod. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. YouTube is a bit more unlikely that you'll find the latest episode on there. I mean, at least wait a few days, if not weeks, months. I don't know. Sometimes we put them up there. Sometimes it takes a while. So, I'm sorry to the YouTube listeners. But yeah, I think that's it. So, yeah, let's see. That was about 48 minutes. That's a decent length for a podcast. But hey, that took me 2 hours to edit. So, there's that. It takes me a long time to edit. And I was even editing at like double speed or something like that on the playback. I do not want to bore you anymore, so I'm going to go now. Yeah, see you people. Episode 30, I guess, will be coming out around the same time next week. We're not doing a book episode this week because that's a bi-weekly thing on Tuesdays. But there is another episode that we will be putting out on, Tuesday night or something like that, our time. So, like, I don't know, Wednesday. That will be available on Patreon for people who give up to a certain amount. I don't remember what. But I think I'm going to keep the latest 2 episodes, which is the only 2, available for $5 patrons, which is a tier lower. So just so you can sort of hear what those episodes are like, I guess. I think they're a bit less formal, but maybe they're more formal. Who knows? I don't listen back to it. That's the end. See you. Bye.